Hi everyone, this is SNES a day 48, and today's game is The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Probably my favorite game of all time. Um, and I thought a good place to show this game off in the video would be kind of the first really difficult dungeon in the game. So if you aren't familiar with Link to the Past, the whole conceit is that there's like a dual world thing going on. And after the first 3 dungeons, you fight a boss and he sends you into the Dark World. Which looks exactly like the world you're used to in the previous couple hours of the game. Except everything's twisted, kind of different. So this is where you start off in the Dark World, and your task is to go to the east and go to the dungeon there. The reason that this is kind of the hardest dungeon in the game is because it's kind of a roadblock to new players. The enemies in the Dark World hit a lot harder than what you're used to in the Light World. So I'll show off the Light World real quick. So you can switch between the worlds at any time, from dark to light, using the magic mirror. And this is kind of the standard Zelda world. If you look at the map, it looks extremely similar to the Dark World. But we can't do anything in the Light World right now, so we're gonna go to the Dark World. So, in the Light World, before you come here, you get the Master Sword, which is this blue sword. And you're just killing enemies left and right in one hit. So it can be kind of a shock to come back here and actually have to take multiple hits to destroy enemies. So as you can see, that monster, one hit, took off 2 hearts off my life bar. It's a big deal to get hit in the Dark World, and you have to be very careful. This is kind of a hedge maze. If you look closely, I assume this shows up in the video, you can kind of see where you are and the path you need to take. I hate this monkey. So we're going to give him money, and he's going to help us open up the door to the dungeon. Which is great, but it costs 10 rupees here, and it'll cost more money later on, but if we get hit, we have to go back to the maze and get him out, because he gets scared from the monsters. So we have to be very careful. This is actually the location in the Light World of the very first dungeon. So I think that's pretty nice for getting players to be like, oh, this is where you need to go. It's the same place as you needed to go earlier. If you look closely on the ground, there are these switches. Press the switches, open up the door. So if anyone's ever played a Zelda game, none of this is going to be really all that crazy. This is kind of Link to the Past kind of started the whole Zelda formula that some people are getting a little tired of, but it's just so good. So with this red shield I have, I can block fireballs. So this guy right here is a Helmasaur, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to try to get behind him because his front's armored. But I find it easier just to pick up a pot and just throw it at him. It's one hit kill. It makes things a lot easier. Less time consuming. You can also use bombs to blow them up, but that's just Possible. So these guys right here are anti-fairies, I think they're called. And they're really annoying, and there's only one way to kill them, and that's using the magic powder, which turns them into regular fairies, which heal you. And once you get the Master Sword in Link to the Past, and you're at full health, you can shoot a beam, which is very helpful at staying alive because you can keep enemies away from you. But it's also a lot weaker than just hitting them with your sword. So. These guys here mimic your movements. But the red ones will shoot fireballs at you if they look at you, so you kind of have to like walk them into the arrows you're shooting. It's not too bad. These floating jellyfish are really annoying, especially the red ones. So when you hit a red one, they split into a bunch of pieces, and they're almost impossible to hit. And if you hit them when they're electric, obviously they'll electrocute you. So I usually just ignore them. It's not worth dealing with it. This dungeon's also, for a first timer, there are enough like this dungeon requires so many keys, and some of the keys are hidden, like that one. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you can skip over that key and get completely trapped in this dungeon for a while. But once you get kind of a feeling for where all the keys are, it's not too bad. But it's so easy just to forget a key and kind of have to go through a mental checklist of, okay, what did I miss? Those little turtle things, we can't actually kill them yet. We'll have to wait until we get another item. I don't want to spoil what that item is, but whenever you see like the ground like this, where it's kind of textured underneath you, that means you can fall onto it. I don't think there are any exceptions to that. Like, I don't think there are any like tricks the game throws at you to solve a puzzle or anything. Here we're getting the big key. The big key is almost always used for two things in a dungeon. The first is to get the item for the dungeon. It's in a big chest, so obviously you need a big key. But also it's usually used to get into the boss of the dungeon's room and fight him. I think this is the only place these jump pads are used in the game. I could be wrong, but you just press forward and you just jump over it. So this next room here has kind of a trick that I haven't been able to master, so I'm not going to try it, but I'll explain it. Basically, you use a bomb, and you place it like right here, and you do a spin, and it causes you, when the bomb explodes, it pushes you up over the railing to where the big chest is. It's so hard to get right, but if you're watching speedruns of this game, everyone does it. Because it saves so much time, because you get into these mazes in the dark, and they're I always open that chest, and I know they're bombs, I don't need the bombs, but early in the game, there's a lot of these mazes in the dark, and they're kind of annoying. But they're not too bad usually. I think I need that. So one of the cool things about the Zelda game is that if you're ever curious about whether you can bomb through a wall or not, just hold down A and take your sword out and tap the wall, and it'll make a different sound if it's bombable. So that way, you know, if you get stuck in a dungeon and you think you might need to blow out a wall to go on, don't waste all your bombs. Just start tapping every wall. And you can't always rely on cracks in the wall either. There are several places in this dungeon in particular that have cracked walls that aren't bombable. When I was a kid, I would sit there and I would bomb every wall, but none of them go anywhere. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about the item I got. So I got the magic hammer, and this is probably the most underrated weapon in Link to the Past, because it's really, really powerful, but it's tough to use. It's how we kill the turtles. By using the hammer, we knock them on their back so we can strike them in their soft underbelly. So, we picked up the map and the compass. They're kind of useless. I never use them, even when I'm playing a Zelda game I'm not familiar with, but if you hit the map button, it shows you the map, and the compass will show you where the boss is. Usually there's a pretty directed path towards the boss, so the compass is kind of useless. The map's okay, but the compass, just, you know, you can usually figure it out. I always assume they put all this money in this dungeon because they felt bad about charging you 110 rupees to get here. But at this point in the game, I don't think there's a whole lot of need for money for the most part. The two big expenditures of gold up to this point are $100 for a bottle and $500 for the flippers. But I guess it's possible you get here without having the flippers, so... If you push this too far, it'll hit you. So you have to be careful with that. So this is a trick I just discovered recently. Before, like, I would try to, like, outmaneuver these guys and go over here. And that sometimes works, but it also gets you hit a lot. You can just do this instead. Which... It takes a while, but it's a lot safer. So if you're low on health at this point in the game... Oh! Well... Usually it's a lot safer. Alright, we're gonna do it my way. So, Link to the Past is very much available if you have a Wii or a Wii U. It's available in the Virtual Console and on both consoles. You can also probably find a used copy of this game for the Super Nintendo very cheap. This is one of the highest selling Super Nintendo games, so there are copies everywhere. But also, there was a really good port of this released for the Game Boy Advance. Where they just add a bunch of stuff. It doesn't look as nice, but it's a very faithful port. Hopefully at some point that also comes to a Virtual Console, because it's a little underrated. It has some multiplayer features that are really fun to play. So I'm not shooting beams from my sword because, you know, I was hit. So those beams only shoot out your sword when you have max health. Which I don't have, which isn't a problem. So when you have one of these turtles, I like using the hammer to kill them after knocking them down. But when you have multiple ones, if you miss when you're trying to go for the kill, they will get up off the ground and be very, very angry, and be kind of tough to take out. As you can see, like the turtles I knocked down and got back up on their own were much faster and more aggressive than the ones I hadn't touched yet. So this is the dungeon's boss lair, and before I go in there, I just want to show something that I don't think a lot of people kind of know, but you collect bottles as you go on, and if you use the butterfly catching net, you can catch fairies and put them into bottles. Basically, that means if you die, the fairy will bust out and heal you a couple hearts. So it's kind of like having do-overs to an extent here, and I always try to keep at least 2 with me at all times, just because sometimes bad things happen no matter how many times I play this game. So, but this boss is actually kind of a challenging boss. It's the Helmasaur King, and I know when I was a kid I had so much trouble with this guy. He does basically 2 attacks. He shoots out those fireballs, and he'll also swing an attack with his tail. So the reason that I had such a challenge with him is that I thought the only way to kill him was by breaking apart his mass there by using bombs. And it's really hard to kill him with bombs because he moves around. Although I'm actually having a pretty good time here. But the most effective way, it's also the most dangerous, but if you have fairies, this is the way you should probably do it, is to use the hammer. With the bombs, you don't have many bombs. You can upgrade your bombs, but you're probably not very likely to know how to do that at this point in the game. So by using the hammer, you can break it away. But because the hammer is short range, you have to get pretty close. But I'm pretty sure this is the intended way to do it. So once his mask breaks off, he has a big gem there. The fastest way to kill him if you're good is to use the bow and arrow. But you can also just use your sword. So that boss didn't look tough, but if you get here without really knowing what to do, he can surprise you. Especially that tail just comes out of nowhere if you're not ready. And when he hits you, he does a ton of damage. So in the Dark World, every boss you beat gives you this crystal, which has one of the maidens or something, and they're special, and you have to collect all of them for reasons. I think it's a Zelda game. The story's not going to be that great, but... So yeah, this is Link to the Past. Once we finish with this talky part, we'll teleport out of the dungeon. If you have not played this game, and you have any interest in older video games, there's not a game I would recommend more than this one. It's a good challenge, and just there are enough secrets and there are enough tricks that make it fun. Because I play through this game probably once or twice a year. And it's very much worth playing. So, thank you for watching. Play The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.